The autumn rain hammered against the ancient windows of Hogwarts as Hermione Granger clutched her leather-bound tome closer to her chest. The seventh-year corridors were nearly empty at this late hour, save for the occasional flicker of candlelight casting long shadows across stone walls. She should have been in Gryffindor Tower by now, but the restricted section had yielded a breakthrough in her ancient runes research that she simply could not abandon. Her footsteps echoed through the hallway as she navigated toward the library entrance, mentally cataloging the translations she had just discovered. The text spoke of binding magic so old that even Dumbledore had likely never attempted it. Her mind raced with possibilities, with questions that needed answering. That is when she collided with him. Books scattered across the floor like fallen soldiers. Hermione stumbled backward, setting herself against the cold stone wall. When she looked up, silver eyes met hers with equal parts irritation and surprise. Draco Malfoy stood before her, his platinum hair disheveled in a way that suggested he too had been buried in research. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and his usual pristine appearance had given way to something more haunted, more human. His white shirt was partially untucked, sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing the faded dark mark that he no longer bothered to hide. Neither spoke for a moment. The war had ended 6 months ago, but the wounds remained fresh. They had returned to Hogwarts for their final year along with other students who had missed their education while fighting. McGonagall had encouraged reconciliation, rebuilding moving forward, but some rivalries ran deeper than politics. "Hermione, I did not expect anyone else to be awake at this hour," Draco finally said, his voice lacking its usual venom. He bent to gather the scattered books, pausing when he recognized one of her texts. Ancient binding magic? That is rather advanced, even for you, Granger. She snatched the book from his hands, her cheeks flushing. "Not that it is any of your concern, Malfoy, but I am researching protective enchantments for my thesis." "What is your excuse for haunting the corridors after curfew?" Draco straightened, a ghost of his old smirk crossing his features. "Perhaps I enjoy the solitude. Or perhaps I am avoiding people who ask too many questions." Before Hermione could retort, Professor McGonagall appeared at the end of the hallway, her expression stern beneath her pointed hat. "Miss Granger, Mr. Malfoy. I am disappointed to find 2 of my head students breaking curfew. Come with me, both of you." The walk to McGonagall's office was silent and tense. Hermione felt her stomach sink with each step. She had never been in serious trouble before, and the thought of disappointing McGonagall made her chest tight. The headmistress's office had changed little since Dumbledore's time, though the portraits on the walls seemed more somber now. McGonagall gestured for them to sit before settling behind her desk. "I must say I expected better from both of you," she began, her voice measured. "You are head boy and head girl. You are meant to set an example for the younger students, not wander the castle at inappropriate hours. However," she continued, folding her hands, "I understand that these are unusual circumstances. The war has left us all changed, and I am willing to be lenient. Once," Hermione exhaled slowly, relief flooding through her. "However," McGonagall continued, "there will be consequences. Our castle is undergoing unexpected repairs in the 7th-year dormitories. A structural issue was discovered in both the Gryffindor and Slytherin towers this evening. Until repairs are complete, alternative sleeping arrangements must be made." Draco sat forward. "What kind of arrangements?" The headmistress waved her wand and a small silver key appeared on her desk. The head dormitories were originally designed as a shared space, used decades ago when the school felt such arrangements promoted unity between houses. "Given the circumstances, you will both reside there for the next 2 weeks." Hermione felt her blood run cold. "You cannot be serious." "I am entirely serious, Miss Granger. The space is adequate, with separate bedrooms connected by a common study area. You are both adults, and I trust you can behave professionally. This is not a punishment but a necessity." Draco had gone very still, his jaw clenched. "And if we refuse? Then you may sleep in the Great Hall with the first years whose dormitories are also affected," McGonagall replied coolly. "The choice is yours." The weight of the situation settled over Hermione like a heavy cloak. 2 weeks. 2 weeks sharing space with Draco Malfoy, the boy who had tormented her for years, who had stood on the opposite side of a war, who represented everything she had fought against. "Fine," she said quietly. "I will make it work." Draco stood, his expression unreadable. As Will and McGonagall handed them each a key. The dormitory is located in the East Wing, 7th floor. The password is Pax Concordia, peace through harmony. I suggest you both remember that. As they left the office, neither Draco nor Hermione looked at each other. The castle had never felt more vast, more empty, more impossible to navigate than it did in that moment. When they reached the portrait guarding their new dormitory, a stern-looking wizard in Renaissance clothing, Hermione spoke the password first, Pax Concordia. The portrait swung open, revealing a space that took her breath away. It was nothing like the cozy chaos of Gryffindor Tower. This room was all dark wood paneling, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, emerald and burgundy furnishings, arranged around a fireplace that roared to life as they entered. 2 doors stood on opposite sides of the room, presumably leading to their separate bedrooms. Well, Draco said, his voice carefully neutral, this should be interesting. Hermione set her books down on the mahogany desk, refusing to meet his eyes. Let us establish some ground rules. The first 3 days passed in careful avoidance. Hermione rose early, claimed the desk near the window, and buried herself in her studies. Draco kept to the opposite side of the common room, working through what appeared to be complex potions, calculations, and private correspondence he never let her see. They spoke only when necessary, their exchanges clipped and professional. By the 4th night, the tension had become almost unbearable. Hermione sat curled in one of the leather armchairs, her ancient runes text propped against her knees. Rain continued its relentless assault on the windows, and the fire cast dancing shadows across the room. She had been reading the same passage for 20 minutes without absorbing a single word, too aware of Draco sitting across from her. He had abandoned his usual rigid posture, his head tilted back against his chair, eyes closed. For a moment, she allowed herself to study him. Without the sneer, without the malice, he looked younger somehow, vulnerable. The war had carved lines into his face, but had not been there before. A permanent weariness that she recognized because she saw it in her own mirror every morning. Stop staring, Granger. It is unbecoming. Her cheeks burned as his eyes opened, fixing on her with that unsettling intensity. I was not staring. I was thinking. About me, how flattering. About how someone so insufferable managed to become head boy, she shot back. To her surprise, his lips quirked into something almost resembling a genuine smile. Merritt, I assure you. Though I suspect McGonagall hoped the position would reform my wicked ways. Has she had similar hopes for you, or were you simply born perfect? The words were sharp, but lacked their usual poison. Hermione found herself responding without thinking. Nobody is perfect, Malfoy. Some of us just work harder to hide our flaws. The silence that followed was different from the careful quiet of the previous days. Something had shifted. Some invisible barrier had thinned just slightly. Can I ask you something? Draco said, sitting forward. Why did you come back? You could have done anything, gone anywhere. You saved the wizarding world. Yet here you are, finishing your newts like none of it ever happened. Hermione closed her book slowly. Because it matters. Education matters. Knowledge is the only thing that truly belongs to you, the only thing no one can take away. After everything we lost, I needed something permanent to hold on to. Draco absorbed this, his expression thoughtful. I suppose that makes sense. Though I suspect your friends think you are mad for returning to the place where so much went wrong. She thought of Ron and Harry, both of whom had chosen different paths, and felt a familiar ache in her chest. Perhaps, but this castle is also where many things went right. It is where I discovered who I am. And who is that? Hermione met his gaze directly. Someone who refuses to be defined by other people's hatred. Someone who believes in second chances even when they seem impossible. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. Draco looked away first, a muscle working in his jaw. Second chances, he repeated softly. What a luxury. Before Hermione could respond, a loud crack split the air. The fire roared suddenly higher, sparks shooting across the carpet. Draco was on his feet instantly, wand drawn. Hermione scrambled up, as well, her own wand appearing in her hand. What was that? The room had grown unnaturally cold. Frost crept across the windows, and their breath misted in the air. Then Hermione saw it, a shimmer of magic near the doorway, like heat waves in reverse. "Protego!" Draco shouted, throwing up a shield charm just as a pulse of dark energy exploded from the shimmering space. The force threw them both backward. Hermione slammed into the bookshelf, books raining down around her. Through the chaos, she saw Draco hit the floor hard, his wand skittering away. "Malfoy!" She scrambled toward him, her heart pounding. "Are you hurt?" He pushed himself up on his elbows, blood trickling from a cut above his eyebrow. "I have been better." What Merlin's name was that? The shimmer had faded, but the cold remained. Hermione helped Draco to his feet, acutely aware that she was touching him, that his hand gripped hers tightly as he steadied himself. She released him quickly, stepping back. "Old magic," she said, her mind already racing through possibilities. "The castle is full of ancient enchantments, wards that have been layered over centuries. Something must have been triggered. Brilliant deduction, Granger. But why here? Why now?" She moved to examine the spot where the energy had originated, running her fingers along the stone wall. There were runes carved there, so old and faded that they were nearly invisible. Her breath caught. These are not just any runes. They are a binding ward meant to contain something. Or someone. Draco appeared beside her, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him. Contain what? "I do not know yet. But whatever it is, it seems we have awakened it." They spent the next hour examining the walls, casting diagnostic charms, comparing notes from their respective text. Despite herself, Hermione found that Draco was remarkably knowledgeable about defensive magic, his suggestions often insightful and practical. They fell into an easy rhythm, their old antagonism temporarily forgotten in the face of this new mystery. By the time exhaustion finally claimed them, they had discovered 7 more sets of hidden runes scattered throughout the common room, all part of an intricate magical network that neither of them fully understood. "We should tell McGonagall," Hermione said, though she heard the uncertainty in her own voice. Draco shook his head. "And say what? That we nearly got ourselves killed by old magic we do not understand? She will move us immediately, and we will lose any chance of figuring out what this is. So what do you suggest? We research, we figure it out ourselves." He met her eyes, and something passed between them, an understanding that felt almost like trust. "Unless you are afraid, Granger." She lifted her chin. "I am not afraid of anything, Malfoy. Least of all you. Good. Because I have a feeling this is only the beginning." As Hermione retreated to her bedroom that night, she could not shake the image of Draco's face in the firelight, intense and focused, and entirely too compelling. This was going to be a very long 2 weeks. The incident changed everything. Over the next few days, Hermione and Draco became reluctant partners in unraveling the mystery of the dormitory's ancient magic. They spent hours poring over texts together, their heads bent close over yellowed pages, occasionally brushing shoulders in a way that made Hermione's pulse quicken. She tried to ignore it, this strange awareness of him. Tried to focus on the research instead of the way his voice softened when he was thinking aloud, or how his rare, genuine smiles transformed his entire face. This was Draco Malfoy, she reminded herself constantly, her former enemy. The boy who had called her mudblood, except he was not that boy anymore. The war had changed them both. "I found something," Draco announced one evening, startling her from her thoughts. This passage describes a protection ward created during the Founders' era. It was meant to bind magical forces within the castle walls, preventing dark entities from entering. Hermione moved to stand behind his chair, reading over his shoulder. But the binding works both ways. It keeps dark magic out, but if something dark is already inside, it traps it. Exactly. And look at this part. The ward requires 2 opposing magical signatures to maintain balance. Light and dark, creation and destruction. Without that balance, the ward destabilizes. Their eyes met, understanding dawning simultaneously. We triggered it. When we both came here, two sides of the same war, two opposing forces brought together in the same space. Draco nodded slowly. The ward recognized us as threats to each other and activated to contain potential conflict. But we are not actually fighting, so the magic has nowhere to go. It is building up, becoming unstable. So, what do we do? I am not certain yet, but I think we need to find the ward's anchor point, the source of its power. If we can access that, we might be able to stabilize it. The search for the anchor point consumed them. They explored every inch of the dormitory, casting revealing charms, cross-referencing ancient text. Hermione found herself genuinely enjoying Draco's company, their verbal sparring having evolved into something resembling actual conversation. He was wickedly funny when he wanted to be, his dry wit making her laugh more than once. And beneath his practiced cynicism, she glimpsed someone thoughtful and surprisingly kind. It was dangerous, this shift in perspective. Dangerous to see him as human, as someone she might actually care about. On the 8th night, everything came to a head. They had been working late again, following a lead in one of the restricted texts Hermione had borrowed. The rain had finally stopped, leaving behind a crystalline silence that seemed to magnify every small sound. Draco sat on the floor near the fireplace, several books spread around him like protective barriers. Hermione occupied her usual chair, but found her attention drifting from her reading to watching him. "You are staring again, Granger," he said without looking up. "Maybe I'm trying to figure you out, Malfoy." Now he did look up, his silver eyes catching the firelight. "And what have you concluded?" "That you are not who I thought you were." The words hung between them, weighted with meaning. Draco set his book aside, giving her his full attention. "Who did you think I was? A coward. A bully. Someone incapable of real change. And now I think you are someone who made terrible choices because he had no good options. Someone who is trying to be better even when no one believes you can be. Someone who deserves a second chance." Draco stood slowly, crossing the small distance between them. He stopped directly in front of her chair, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. Her heart hammered against her ribs. "Do you know what I think about you, Granger?" His voice had dropped to barely above a whisper. "I think you are the most brilliant, infuriating, and possibly stubborn person I have ever met. I think you see the best in people even when they do not deserve it. I think you are brave in ways that terrify me. And I think that somewhere along the way, when I was not paying attention, you became important to me." Hermione could not breathe, could not think, could only feel the weight of his gaze, the electricity in the air between them. "This is a terrible idea," she managed. "Probably the worst I have ever had." "Then why does it feel right?" "I have absolutely no idea." He moved closer, and she realized that the choice was hers. She could end this now, could retreat behind familiar walls of animosity and old grievances. Or she could take a leap into unknown territory, could choose to believe in impossible things. Hermione stood, closing the final distance between them. When their lips met, it was not gentle or uncertain. It was desperate and fierce, years of tension and conflict transmuting into something entirely different. His hands came up to frame her face, and she gripped the front of his shirt, pulling him closer. The dormitory's magic responded immediately. Light exploded around them, brilliant and warm, the ancient runes on the walls blazing to life. But instead of the violent energy from before, this felt like a release, like something long constrained finally breaking free. When they pulled apart, both breathing hard, the room had transformed. The cold edge that had haunted the space since the first incident was gone, replaced by a warmth that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. "I think we just solved your magical instability problem," Draco said, his voice rough. Hermione laughed, slightly hysterical. "Of course, opposing forces achieving balance through unity. It is almost poetic. Almost? It is absolutely absurd. We just fixed ancient magic by kissing. When you put it that way, it sounds ridiculous. Everything about this is ridiculous, Granger." starting with the fact that I cannot stop thinking about doing that again. Then do not stop. This time, when he kissed her, it was slower, sweeter. And when he pulled back, there was something like wonder in his expression. What are we doing? Something terrifying and wonderful and possibly disastrous, Hermione replied. But I think I am willing to find out. The next morning brought awkwardness that Hermione had not anticipated. She woke early, her mind immediately replaying the events of the previous night with crystal clarity. Had that really happened? Had she actually kissed Draco Malfoy? The answer was definitively yes, because when she emerged from her bedroom, he was already sitting at the desk, and the look he gave her made her stomach flip. "Good morning," he said carefully. "I made coffee." It seemed like the civilized thing to do after, well, everything. Hermione accepted the cup he offered, grateful for something to do with her hands. "Thank you. That was thoughtful." They sat in silence for a moment, the air thick with unspoken questions. Finally, Draco set down his own cup and turned to face her fully. "We should probably talk about this." Probably, she agreed. "I do not regret it if that is what you are wondering, but I also do not know what it means." "Neither do I. All I know is that everything changed last night, and I'm not talking about the magic." Hermione nodded slowly. "We have a week left here. Maybe we should use that time to figure out what this is without overthinking it." "A reasonable suggestion. Though overthinking seems to be your specialty, Granger. And yours is making terrible jokes at inappropriate moments, Malfoy." His laugh was genuine and unguarded, and it made something warm bloom in her chest. How is it that we went from hating each other to this in less than 2 weeks? Maybe we never actually hated each other? Maybe we were just too stubborn to admit we could be something different. The days that followed were a revelation. With the magical crisis resolved, they had no excuse to spend every moment together, yet they found themselves gravitating toward each other regardless. Study sessions turned into long conversations about everything and nothing. Debates about magical theory evolved into discussions about their fears and hopes for the future. Draco told her about the pressure of his family name, the crushing weight of expectations he could never meet, about his mother's fierce love and his father's disappointment, about the nightmares that still woke him some nights, memories of things he had witnessed and things he had done. Hermione shared her own darkness, the terror of being hunted, the guilt she carried about the friends they had lost, the isolation of being Muggle-born in a world that would always see her as less than, the exhausting burden of always having to be strong, to be perfect, to prove she belonged. In those quiet hours after midnight, curled together on the sofa with only the firelight for company, they became real to each other in a way that transcended house rivalries and past wrongs. They became simply two people trying to heal from a war that had scarred them both. Of course, the rest of the castle remained blissfully unaware of the shift in their relationship. As far as anyone knew, the head boy and head girl were merely tolerating each other's presence for the sake of appearances. They kept it that way deliberately, an unspoken agreement that what happened in their shared dormitory was theirs alone. But secrets have a way of coming to light. On the 13th day, Harry and Ron cornered Hermione in the library. She had been expecting this confrontation, honestly. She had been avoiding them all week, making excuses about research and prefect duties. "Hermione, we need to talk," Harry said, his green eyes serious behind his glasses. "What is going on with you and Malfoy?" Her carefully prepared explanations died in her throat. "What do you mean?" Ron crossed his arms, his expression hurt rather than angry. "We saw you two yesterday in the courtyard. The way he looked at you, Hermione, the way you smiled at him, that is not just tolerance, that is something else entirely." She sank into a chair, suddenly exhausted. "I did not plan for this to happen. But yes, something has changed between us. I care about him. I know how that sounds, I know what you must think, but he is not the same person he was during the war." Harry sat down across from her. "I do not claim to understand it, but I have also seen what the war did to people, how it changed them. If Malfoy is genuinely trying to be better, then maybe that is worth something." Ron looked less convinced. "He tormented you for years, Hermione. He stood by while that mad woman tortured you at his house. How do you just forget that?" "I do not forget," she said quietly. "But I also do not believe people are defined forever by their worst moments. He was a child raised to believe terrible things, forced into an impossible situation. That does not excuse what he did, but it does provide context. And the person he is now, the person he's choosing to be, that is who I care about." The conversation continued for another hour, painful and necessary. In the end, Harry gave her his tentative blessing, though Ron remained skeptical. She could live with that. They had earned the right to their doubt, just as Draco had earned the right to a chance at redemption. That night, she told Draco about the confrontation. They sat on her bed, shoulders touching, hands clasped between them. "They hate me," he said flatly. "I cannot blame them." "They do not hate you. They are protective of me and they are working through their own trauma. Give them time. And if they never accept us, then that will hurt," Hermione admitted. "But it will not change how I feel. My choices are my own, Draco. I choose you." He turned to look at her, and the vulnerability in his expression stole her breath. "I do not deserve you, Granger. Maybe not. But you make me happy, which is more than I expected to feel again. That has to count for something." The final day in the shared dormitory arrived too quickly. Repairs on their house towers were complete, and McGonagall had sent word that they would be returning to their respective common rooms the following morning. Hermione should have been relieved. Instead, she felt an ache in her chest that had nothing to do with magical instability or ancient wards. She found Draco on the balcony that extended from the common room, a secret space they had discovered during their second week. He stood at the railing, looking out over the dark grounds, his profile sharp against the moonlight. "We could just not go back," she said, stepping up beside him. "We could tell McGonagall the dormitory still needs us for some crucial magical reason." He smiled without looking at her. "And live here forever, hiding from reality? As appealing as that sounds, I think we both know it cannot last." "No, but these 2 weeks have been some of the happiest of my life, and I'm not ready to let that go." Draco finally turned to face her, reaching out to tuck a curl behind her ear. "Who says we have to? The dormitory situation was forced upon us. True, but what we built here, that is real. That does not disappear just because we return to our separate towers." "You mean you actually want to try this? Publicly? Despite what people will say?" His smile turned wry. "Granger, people have been saying terrible things about me for years. A few more opinions will not kill me. Besides," he continued, his expression growing serious, "you are worth facing down the entire wizarding world. You have to know that by now." Hermione felt tears prick at her eyes. She had not realized how much she needed to hear those words, how much doubt had been lurking beneath her brave face. "I know," she whispered. "I feel the same way about you." They stood together in the moonlight, wrapped in each other's arms, and Hermione felt something settle in her chest. This was not the end of something, but the beginning. A chance to rewrite their story, to choose each other deliberately and openly. The next morning, they packed their belongings side by side, working in comfortable silence. The dormitory that had seemed so alien 2 weeks ago now felt like home. Hermione touched the bookshelf where they had spent countless hours researching, the desk where Draco had made her coffee every morning, the sofa where they had shared their darkest secrets. "Ready?" Draco asked, his trunk hovering behind him. "As I will ever be." They walked through the castle together one last time as residents of the shared space. Students stared openly as they passed, whispers following in their wake. Hermione kept her head high, refusing to be ashamed of what they had found together. At the point where their paths diverged, Gryffindor Tower in one direction and the Slytherin dungeons in another, they stopped. Draco reached for her hand, threading his fingers through hers. "Dinner tonight?" he asked. "In the Great Hall, together, where everyone can see." She smiled, feeling brave and terrified and absolutely certain all at once. "Yes, absolutely yes." "Good, because I meant what I said, Granger. You are worth everything." He kissed her there in the corridor, gentle and sure, and Hermione kissed him back with every ounce of courage she possessed. When they pulled apart, she could feel the weight of dozens of eyes on them. But for once, she did not care what anyone thought. This was her choice, her truth, her happiness. And as she walked toward Gryffindor Tower, her hands still warm from Draco's touch, Hermione realized that the castle's ancient magic had given them more than just a solution to a mystical problem. It had given them time and space to see each other clearly, to build something real from the ashes of old hatred. Sometimes the most powerful magic was not found in books or wands or ancient wards. Sometimes it was simply the choice to believe in second chances, to see the possibility of light even in the darkest places. To recognize that enemies could become something more if only they were brave enough to try. That evening, when Hermione walked into the Great Hall with her hand clasped firmly in Draco's, the entire room fell silent. She felt Harry's surprised support from the Gryffindor table, Ron's reluctant acceptance, and the shocked stares from every other student in the castle. But more than that, she felt Draco beside her, solid and real and choosing her just as surely as she was choosing him. They sat together at a table between the Gryffindor and Slytherin sections, a symbolic middle ground that would likely become their regular spot. Conversations slowly resumed around them, though the whispers would undoubtedly continue for weeks. "You know this is going to be complicated," Hermione murmured as they filled their plates. Draco glanced at her, one eyebrow raised. "Was there ever any doubt?" "We are complicated people, Granger. But I would rather face complications with you than simplicity with anyone else." "That is remarkably poetic for someone who once told me my teeth looked like a beaver. I was a complete idiot at 12. And for the record, your teeth are perfect." She laughed, and the sound felt like freedom. They had a long road ahead of them. She knew that there would be challenges, doubts, moments when the weight of the past threatened to crush the fragile present they were building. But looking at Draco, now seeing the warmth in his eyes and the genuine smile on his face, Hermione believed they could face anything together. The ancient magic of the castle had brought them together by accident, but what they had created in those 2 weeks was entirely their own choice. A choice to heal, to forgive, to love despite every reason they had been given not to. As the candles flickered overhead and the noise of the Great Hall swelled around them, Hermione Granger and Draco Malfoy sat side by side, no longer enemies, no longer strangers, but something entirely new and impossible and perfect. Two people who had learned that the strongest magic of all was the courage to rewrite your own story. And their story, she thought, was just beginning.